Hello, my name's Peter Rosser. I'm a retired Catholic priest. Catholic priests only retire when they're 75. I reached 75 2 years ago, and I relished the thought of retirement. I had experienced some health difficulties in recent years and was glad to take the opportunity to step back from regular daily ministry. I have often looked with jealousy on some of my friends and relatives who've retired at early ages. My own brother retired at 50 and was able to take up his hobby of photography. But I continued to work until I was 75. But I had my dreams, like they had their dreams. One of my dreams was that I would be able to do cruise lining, chaplaincy on cruises. And I'd done it once, but realised it was something that I would need more time for. So I look forward to seeing places, going on cruises as a chaplain and seeing parts of the world that I've never been able to see. I looked forward to being able to improve my golf handicap and get some more chance to play golf. And I also look forward to the opportunity to do more jigsaws. But then 2 years ago, when the moment came for my retirement, within a very short space of time, I began to lose my balance. And all sorts of mobility became difficult. It wasn't that I had any dizziness, I just lost balance. And so all sorts of things that I'd enjoyed began to not be possible. I'd enjoyed walking, and I used to walk regularly 4 or 5 miles 2 or 3 times a week. But now I wasn't able to do that. Busy pathways and busy platforms became very hazardous. Crossing roads became very difficult because turning side to side whilst I was walking became very difficult. Using steps was impossible, even the slightest steps, unless there was a handrail. I was beginning to realise my world was shrinking. My freedom to do ordinary things of mobility were becoming increasingly impossible. Getting on trains and using trains was more problematic. I did mind the gap. Escalators were a problem. They were very hazardous. I found I was having to depend upon people's carefulness and kindness because I was being frightened all the time of being knocked over if anybody bumped into me. My world was shrinking. My comfort zone was diminishing, and I began to see that phrase of Jesus to Peter after the resurrection when he appeared to them on the shore. And he said to Peter, "When you were young, you put on your own belt and walked where you liked. But when you grow old, you will stretch out your hands and somebody else will put a belt round you and take you where you would rather not go." All that has left me with some very difficult emotions. First of all, there's a great sadness that my dreams can't be fulfilled, a great sadness that I see empty parishes and would love to offer some help to communities without a priest. But I'm very much hampered in that at the moment and wonder when it will get to the point where I can't do it at all. I fear of what might come. The medical people have done investigation, a lot of investigation, and they can only conclude that it's age-related, which is a way of saying, I think, that can't be cured. And of course there's always a very likely possibility that it will continue to deteriorate. And so there's a fear of what lies ahead. I often used to visit care homes and visit people who are housebound and would try to comfort them. Now I wonder, is it my turn? And will I have the patience and the peace that I so often met in those people? I'm not too sure. And then there's a confusion about what's the purpose of my life if I can't do things, if I become somebody who is restricted so greatly that I can't do anything. What will the meaning of it be? What will it all be about, Alfie? And that leads to a great loss of confidence. All this adds up to my losing my confidence in my ability to do things, which is again quite frightening and quite destabilizing. But then I reflect that perhaps the purpose of my recent struggles is of great importance. Perhaps the purpose is about my own purification, my learning to follow the Lord more closely. Jesus, we're told, emptied himself of his Godhead, but then he had to empty himself further. And on that night in the Garden of Gethsemane, he lost his personal autonomy. He was taken into the hands of others who would deal with him as they wished. And in his loss of personal autonomy, he was emptied to the point of death on the cross. And perhaps this recent series of struggles and diminishment of my own abilities and freedom of movement is about my learning to be emptied, my becoming emptied of self through the crosses that I'm experiencing. I found great comfort, and in fact it enlivens me a bit when I read that lovely quote from St. John Henry Newman, where he reflects, and I quote, "I must trust him. If I am in sickness, my sickness may serve him. If I am in sorrow, my sorrow may serve him. He does nothing in vain. He knows what he is about. He may take away my friends. He may throw me among strangers. He may make me feel desolate, make my spirits sink, hide the future from me. Still, he knows what he is about." And then I find comfort too in the book of Job. Job had all that suffering, and he struggled to understand, and he argued with God. But in the end, he came to realize and to understand that, and I quote his words, he says to God, "I knew you then only by hearsay, but now I have seen you with my own eyes." Perhaps therein lies the purpose of what is happening to me. It's about my growing closer to God through the restrictions and struggles that I'm experiencing at the moment. And as I reflect, of course, as the world diminishes, my world diminishes, I become unable to do. There'll certainly be more time to pray. and indeed more time for jigsaws.